So the topic that I'll be sharing tonight is about enterprise architecture business value realization model through ISA box fit between IT and business. This is something I think has been around in the last 20, 30 years. When I first started my career life, sometimes 30 years ago, as a programmer, this already happened. Every time when we talk about when my boss asked me to meet the business people, I hesitate. I would rather meet with another engineer. I would rather meet with another IT professional than the business people because I really don't know how to talk to them. I really don't know the language to talk to them. Likewise, for the business people, they found us also to be very strange, very, very stranger. How can we talk to Aaron? His communication language is like TCP/IP, SML, Java, and then all the platform, networking, security, etc. But we are talking about the business. So this is something, the dilemma that has been around. So that's why, because of that, today the continuation of many issues, many change requests between IT system that has been developed and also mismatch of expectation between business and IT. Somehow, this need to be fixed. And of course, this is something like the analogy on the button. Sometimes the user telling us, can you just add one button, please? Just add one button. Why it took so long to just add one button? I think you have heard this request before. So what happened when you press this button? What do you expect? The logic behind it. This is what happened, right? There are so many connectivity inside there. And we need to be sure that when the button is pressed, it's really behaving or delivering the function as is expected. Otherwise, there will be many, many errors. Yeah? So this is where when the consequences of not having architecture thinking or architecture practice in the organization. And this is also another irony that today many projects, it is called transformation because of course I've spoken to many of the people and they said that, if my project doesn't have the title transformation, it will not get approved. So doing the same project, but you just label it transformation. So what happened at the end? At the end, you will see something like this. So every transformation or digitalization is actually overlapping. It's just another way of doing IT project in the past. So not much improvement. And of course, this is also another irony today in many organizations. They can say that we are going to do digitalization. So we are going to develop a strategy. And then after that, we are going to execute the transformation. This seems to be another way of telling that white labeling. White labeling means, in the past, we got the requirement from the business and we execute the IT project. So no much different, right? But today, the fact is that our world is very complex. We need to get the holistic view on what is the impact the transformation bring to the organization. So that's why our advocate is that we would recommend organization, one, you develop a strategy, you feel it's a sound, a good strategy. Let's go through the digital EA process. Okay, let's understand the business impact, the data, the application, and the infrastructure. And what are the so-called this business data application and technology impact bring to the transformation? So we get the clear impact and we get clear the understanding, and we also know the so-called outcome that we are going to be achieved. So with that, we can achieve more success rather than straight away from the strategy, go to the transformation. And in the transformation, basically, we do architecture inside the transformation. That's just a mission impossible. It is like telling your mechanic, you repair the car while you are driving in highway. That's just impossible. So we need to get the car ready, understand, check all the equipment, and we run the transformation. So this is where the ideal process of so-called executing the digital transformation. And this is the concept to expand about architecture. So architecture is about holistic view, like this building. We want to put it next to the sea. So we need to put the deck, we need to put the water features, the car park, and etc. So what is the other side of the project management? Project management basically about construction. So project management need to be guided by the blueprint, need to know that what is at the end results of our development. So this is something that are very, very critical because the architecture hold all the decision. And the project management said, oh, we cannot add another floor because why? Architecture has been designed this way and has been calculated accurately. So now just to reflect back on our organization, who are the person or the team responsible for it? Likelihood they pass it to the IT project team, which is what when they construct and the architects. That's why the consequences is that many projects are not delivering as what it was designed or expected in the beginning. And this is where the models should be doing. that we typically the organization they develop their own strategy. So the strategy basically about the way on how we can achieve the goal. And by right, that strategy need to be cascaded down into the business. So the business exactly knows which are the strategy that I'm going to implement. So we also need to know what information required. Then from there, we apply the right technology at the bottom. So like all the industry IR 4.0, like all the IoT, sensors, cloud, smart things, smart object, and etc. So all that should be a so-called model in the connected way, so that any changes in the infrastructure, they know exactly which strategy is impacted. So what we are trying to achieve, actually, we want to get a digitally connected enterprise, so that as we transform, as we move along the journey of the transformation to increase our maturity to the next level, we are getting a full so-called visibility. We are under control, not chaotic. So we know exactly that if we change particular area or particular items, we know exactly which are the impacted entity in the entire organization, so that we can run a smooth transformation. So at the end of the day, is at the bottom part is where we run multiple projects, and also we run a service delivery to ensure that have a continuation and customer have a good support. So behind the scene on the digitally connected enterprise model, this is what we need to do. First, we need to integrate between business strategy and IT strategy. So they are no longer separated, but they are integrated. Then after that, once the strategy is developed, we need to assess a few factors or domain, what we call it in the enterprise. The first one, we call it business architecture domain. So what is the impact of this new strategy bring to our business landscape? We need to know that. So business landscape, what I mean here is we are talking about business process, business goal, business driver, business function, department, and etc. Then from there, we look at the information. What are the information required to support that? And also what technology or application required to support that. Then at the bottom layer, between the interfaces between 2 and 3, we consolidate all the gaps. And the gaps, we turn it into a project. Does that make sense? So that's what it is supposed to be that way. But now in many cases is that they go straight from number 1 to number 3, and they put number 2 inside the number 3. And apparently when you go into the number 3, trust me, if you are already running the project, you have no time for anything else. So at the end, the number 2 is not done, and you go straight into the implementation. At the end, you pay the price of many change requests and business IT sour relationship, not a good relationship. And of course, now we are moving to the era of the digitalization. I think already past 11 years, right? 2010 is the cutoff between the era of computerization and digitalization, whereby in the era of the digitalization is that it is a requirement for business and technology integration and need to be connected. So this is the requirement, a prerequisite for a successful digitalization. And of course, in the era of digitalization, also they got many expectations. The first one is, of course, about asking about this type of question, right? We need to understand about strategic driver and challenges. What are the gaps in our current capabilities? And we also need to know the opportunity for our transformation. What are the opportunity out there that we can do? And also what capabilities are required? Can you get this answer for this? And of course, how can we optimize our resources? So we got the limited budget. We got also limited human capital. How can we optimize that? And how to develop a new capability or sustain or retire existing one as we transform or progress into the next level. And of course, how should we build transit or retire system to achieve sustainable investment portfolio? So this is something that how can we ensure that all the technology investment bring a return to the business? And of course, what are the right mix of existing new capability and the right time for the implementation? We need to know all these answers, okay? But of course, you answer one of the question here, it will lead to the next question. So we need to answer this. We need the answer to all these questions. So the answer to this question is we need a so-called enterprise architecture to address this. And before I continue, let me just show you the video, the concept of the enterprise architecture.
Why enterprise architecture? Well, here's a reason. Michael works at our company. Now, because of new business demands, he is in need of specific data. But his data is spread out over different applications. Exclusively for Michael, a developer writes a program that'll get his data from applications A, B and C and write it to an Excel file in directory Y. That way, Michael will be able to read all the data in his spreadsheet and use it. Michael then realizes that he needs this on a daily basis. It would save a lot of time if the program ran automatically every day. Therefore, an infrastructure manager writes a batch job to set this up for him. Now, an application flow has been created, especially for Michael, which depends on a number of other applications. But Michael is not the only one who wants to improve his efficiency, so multiply this situation by a few thousand. We call this hairball architecture. Think of it as a huge hairball with fibers going in every possible direction. No one's keeping track of it, and no one has control over it. Now, imagine we have to replace a huge application because it's out of date and the supplier has said that in 2 years they'll stop the support. We have no idea what the application is connected to. It's an endless network of dependencies which were all created one at a time. And each connection made sense at the time, but the total is such a chaotic situation that it's impossible to change one aspect without damaging something else. Now that's where enterprise architecture comes in. We have to deal with the IT landscape in such a way that people have the freedom to create improvements and that there's always room for innovation. Architecture makes sure that our IT landscape is robust as well as flexible and efficient. This requires a process to keep things organized. For this reason, each new project needs a project start architecture. This is created by a project architect who is part of the project team. He or she writes a plan explaining how the total landscape will look when the project is complete. This plan includes the applications we've set up, what they do for the business, and the hardware they require. The project start architecture is evaluated by the architecture board. In this board, architects from every domain in our company work together and supervise the entire landscape. Summarized, enterprise architecture is about 3 things. We take a look at the existing situation. We help to develop and evaluate designs, and we create a sketch for the future so that everyone understands the direction we're heading. Architecture is about insight and knowledge. The world doesn't lend itself to being easily understood or pinned down in rules. There's no way we can know what the regulators are going to say to us 3 years from now. But what we can do is make choices which will ensure that we will be flexible, robust, and efficient in the future. Because in the end, it's all about maintaining our ability to change. That's why enterprise architecture.
So this is one of the video, my favorite video, because give a very clear analogy about what happened in a typical IT setup, that we've been keep adding a new project, involved into new project, developing a new system, and at the end we become a hairball. So it's the time now to do housekeeping, to make it clean, neat, and tidy, so that we can transform like a Lego concept, the building block. So let me just give you an overview of the framework that we have been so-called, I myself have been adopting this in the last 20 years. So this is about TOGAF Enterprise Architecture Framework. Some of you may be familiar, some of you may be new. So let me just give you a quick, like a 2-3 minute overview. So first thing first, when you see this type of the framework, it's quite interesting. They put everything in a circle. And they have so-called the arrow. The arrow is the clockwise, right? So you start from preliminary, go into the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, back to A, and then if we roll, continue. So what does it mean? It's like the wheel. So the wheel, it will never stop. That's why in the era of transformation is that you will never stop transforming. When you stop transforming, it's the end of the world, basically. So we need to keep doing, keep moving, keep increasing your maturity, and you need to keep so-called innovating. This is the very good framework that is like, other framework is like the block. This is more on the like the wheels that are moving, like the car wheel or the bicycle wheel. So the first thing first on the preliminary is that exactly is where you need to get the management support. So here is where you need to justify your value, why you want to embark in this particular initiative, what is it is trying to solve the problem, and also give value or benefit to the senior management. Then you get the buy-in. Then once you get the buy-in, you set about they call it architecture building block, the term called ABB. And first is that you need to understand and do alignment with the enterprise vision and strategy. What actually you're trying to do? Is this aligned with the current strategy that organization is heading? Because in most of the cases that I'm involved in many strategy development, strategy is just at the 30,000 feet. 30,000 feet means is you are flying in the sky. You don't even go into the ground, and you're not even hovering the ground. So it's like you are developing strategy in the sky. Now we need to bring it down and land into the ground. This is where phase A is talking about. Then from there, you directly understand the gaps that the business need to fix. Gaps mean something that are not right, something that need to be transformed. So we understand the business gap. Then after that, we look at the data and information gap. So from there, we analyze what are the information missing, which information that need to be connected. Then after that, look at the application and software that need to be supported. Then the last part is looking at the technology or infrastructure. So this so-called method, after you understand the vision and strategy, you understand and discover gaps that need to be filled in the business, data, application, and technology. Then what happened? The continuation in the solution building block. Solution building block is the construction. So this is where interfaces or overlapping or interfacing with the project management, the architecture. This way you consolidate all the gap and turn it into a project. So basically the gap means something that I don't have today, and I consolidate them. I put that into the project. Once the project get approved in the phase E, then you go into the so-called finalizing the project plan. Finalizing project plan is basically developing the Gantt chart, assign the resources, put the budget, timeline, and etc. Then after that, in the phase G, basically you are executing the project. So if the execution of project 6 months, then you will stay in the phase G for 6 months. Then phase H is if there is any changes, perhaps technology change or business change that will impact the architecture. If we go back into the requirement management and see where are the new gaps is being generated in the ABCD. Then from there, go back again into the phase E to consolidate all the gap and then execute the project and then move again. So it's a very good analogy to describe about the journey of the transformation through this EA framework. The next one is on the digital enterprise architecture. That's also very, very critical. And I think many people confuse. They said when you talk about architecture, must be technical and for the IT people only. But the fact is not. You see here the target audience of the digital EA. The first target audience actually is the head of strategy, because the head of strategy need to understand whether the strategy can be implemented. I think just now I give you the earlier slide that you understand the strategy, then from the strategy you go into the architecture and then see the impact, then after that you execute it into the transformation project. Then for the business architect, basically it's about understanding the landscape, the impact of the strategy, and of course how to so-called identify the gap to fill up to develop a transformation roadmap. Then for the chief digital officer, basically is to understand the digitalization opportunity that can embark on. Then for chief customer officer is looking at the digital channel, how today a customer can be so-called well taken care through a various digital channel rather than physical channel. Then for architects and also portfolio manager, technology, project, and application portfolio manager, basically looking at all the ongoing project, the in-flight project, as well as all the impact on the capability that bring to the organization. And the other group is about solution architecture. Basically, is where you are talking with all the vendor, the technology vendor, in terms of the technology fit to the organization and to the business. Then for the investment manager, basically is looking at that whether you are investing $2 million in this initiative, whether how much return you can bring to the organization. And also risk, I think is very pervasive in our life. It is like cybersecurity, so that we know exactly when the risk occur, which area will be impacted in the organization. So we don't go panic and shut down the whole system. We can isolate and quickly zoom in exactly which are the risks that get impacted. And also for the CIO to manage the entire portfolio, how they looking into the completed project, outstanding project, and etc. Okay, so this is where the digital enterprise architecture platform today are capable of. And without this, well, if you want to ask to answer certain question, just now I listed in the earlier slide, it takes you weeks or months. But with this platform, you can answer almost immediately, because this platform basically gives you a full insight on the enterprise to support enterprise decision making. And this is where the so-called model on the strategy connected to the enterprise architecture and the PMO. So in the typical at the strategy world, there's only two types of strategy: business and IT strategy. They call it BSP or ISP. Then in the architecture, actually they got 4 domains. Just I mentioned about business, data, application, and technology that we need to look after, and they actually is connected. Then the next one essentially is about the design, where you are going to design or your organization or process design, database design, software design, infrastructure. And operation is where you support ongoing operation or business operation and IT operation. So if you look at the vertical, this is where the business architecture playing a role. And this is where the data architecture playing a role. And this is where the application architecture playing a role. And this is where the infrastructure architecture playing a role. So by, when you are doing horizontal, it's not really connected. When you're doing vertical, also lacking interdependency or impact connected to other domain. So what enterprise architecture does is that they connect the strategy with the architecture to make it holistic, so that the decision maker and the key stakeholders can see the clear pictures about the enterprise model, and the project management actually executing at the so-called at the design and operational level to make sure that all the architecture get realized, not only at the pictures at the dashboard, but being executed properly. And this is where the EA can become a command and control. This is very, very important in the organization. Otherwise, they got so many command and control, and you don't know who to listen to, because everyone said, I'm the most powerful. Everyone must follow my instruction. But you can't really see a so-called a holistic control of the organization. That's why the enterprise architecture playing this role to connect the entire entity in the organization. So from your strategic planning to your portfolio, risk, procurement, technology management, project solution, and also change management. That's a very, very important part. This is the model, the analogy on the digital twin. Basically, just now, I think in the video, you have seen about the building blocks, how the building block itself can get built. Actually, the reality, you will see this building block live. So let me just give you an analogy on the left-hand side, whereby you have a people, process, knowledge, and technology. And typically, this type of so-called domain are pretty much in the island, in the silo, basically residing in a particular team or particular department. So if that's the case, how do you transform? It's very, very challenging. So what we need to do is that we need to extract them out into the model. So the model is actually using this type of the Archimedes building blocks. So how we can model the motivation and strategy layers, so that we understand what are the direction, what are the aspiration and the goal that key stakeholders wanted to do. Then from there, we map it to the business exactly in our enterprise, which are the business process, function, roles, services that are impacted. Then after that, we look at the appropriateness of the technology supporting our business. Yeah, not the other way around. We need to put the application fit into the business, not business to the application. Then the next layer is technology. Whether we can move to the cloud, or we can private cloud, or we go to virtualization, etc. So this is where the decision being made after we understand the whole map. Then after that, we look at the data, whether the data are well connected, and whether the data are useful and relevant and give so-called a strategic advantage for the key decision-making process. And the last part is where you are monitoring the ongoing project that has been so-called assigned. So all these are so-called building block of a new digital enterprise today, which is what we call it a digital twin. And from here, actually, you can see many things. You can come up a dashboard. You can interact with the system. You can ask this digital map. It's like something like you see in our today terminology is like GPS, right? You can turn on the GPS and they tell you straight away that you want to go to this destination. You turn left, turn right, and etc. So the same thing, this digital enterprise map is providing that navigation for the enterprise while they are doing the transformation. So the model, instead of you have the business and technology model separated as what in the computerization era, now we are in the digital era that need to be integrated, right? So typically is that some of the organizations still doing it this way. The business tell the technology what they aspire to do, And typically the technology people are looking towards only technology view and develop a system, and hopefully the system is what the business expected. But unfortunately, in the matter of fact is that the business, have some sort of issue or challenges that, the system cannot be used and on the day one. They need to do a lot of the fine tuning, change manage, change request, and etc. before it can be fully used by the business. So whereby the architecture approach is that you have the enterprise architecture layers that integrate business and technology together. Then after that, they got the governance for enforcing. Then you look at the area of the mapping between what the processes the business are doing and the application to support that. Yeah, so this is the model of today in the digital era. And this is also another structure of the organization that I think many of us today, we have the PMO team. So we run multiple projects, and we also have IT services team that run multiple support to ensure the OLA and the SLA are maintained. And I think what we are missing today is that we need to develop an enterprise architecture office, whereby actually is understanding and matching or alignment with the vision, mission, and the strategy. Then look at the gap that need to be filled in the area of business, data, application, and technology. Then there is where you pass it back to the PMO to execute, to fill up the gap into the project. And of course, we need also today, I talk about digital enterprise architecture, because today architecture also has moved towards digital. So no more document or Excel format. So everything is in the repository. So we call it as a single source of truth that can be used both by the architecture team, by the project team, as well as by the support team. And the top layers is where you are encompassing a steering committee that involve 3 divisions. So in many organizations today, if you got the PMO and ITSM, you're not enough. You need to spin off another so-called enterprise architecture office to ensure that the PMO and ITSM are smooth transition. And if you map into the particular so-called discipline or the platform, this is what you get, right? In the architecture, I think you heard about the open group, TOGAF, ISA, Archimate, they got the certified IT architects, CITA A, CITA F, ITABox, all here in the area of domain of architecture. Then in terms of the project management, you got, of course, they got the PMI, you got PMAS, you got a Prince2 there. Then the governance, the IT support, you got IT, you got DevOps. And the bottom part is for the platform, you got, of course, you got the governance, right? Like Asaka COVID, you got the BOC, you got evaluation, you got business design, you got Opus. So all these are the players in the respective domain. So ideal enterprise, when we have adopted enterprise architecture, so we have, of course, aligned with industry best practices. Then, of course, our business team can accurately express their IT wants and needs. So no more blaming that if got some issues, blame it to the business and business blame it to IT. So all live in the harmony. And IT team, of course, can also speak and write business. They can think technical, but they still need to speak and write business. And of course, our team, our colleague, equipped with the right skill set to progress with the company, it is aligned with our so-called skill future, right? Developing internal capability and also competency especially for the digital literacy. And of course, we can calculate ROI for any IT investment. And of course, last but not least, about our delivering value of our IT, because in the past, IT is always categorized as a cost center, because we don't know how to deliver value. But now I think we know there's a way to show that IT also can generate profit to the organization, delivering value. Yeah. Imagine today the bank. If the bank today, you shut off the core banking, what happened? Your ATM cannot operate. Maybe when you go to the branch, they said, come back later because our core banking down. They cannot run the transaction. So meaning that technology are playing a critical role. So we need to be able to play this so-called investment to safeguard our organization by the technology that we have implemented or selected. So with that, let me just end with my video, about 3 minutes video. Then after that, I will hand over to the MC for the next presenter.
In the layman term, 30 years ago was organization structure, org structure. Okay, but I want to have the digital map that I can ask. So if I tell you that you are Mr. So and you are from that department, so can I just open digital map? I want to know what is your role, and I can also find out which are the department that you are working closely in your enterprise. Okay, and I can also find out what actually your SOP, your day-to-day job. Okay, are you approving? If yes, you're who approving it? What processes do you do? And after that, I also want to know which IT system that's supporting it. Okay, if you can give me that answer in 5 minutes, you don't need EA. Done. Many people said EA is a project. I have done my EA 3 years ago. Here are the proof, right? And most of the case is that the EA that they have done is in a static book, okay, static deliverable. As soon as you printed that static book, immediately obsolete. The second part, many people think EA is can eliminate the complexity. Okay, the fact is not the word eliminating, but is managing. Okay, how can now we manage that complexity and we do better than the rest? The third one, of course, people say that enterprise architecture is only for IT team. Okay, that is totally the myth. It was correct 20 years ago. You talk about architecture word, pass it to the IT team, but now the enterprise architecture involve, the stakeholders, key stakeholders, the decision maker, then involve a motivation of all the divisional head, and also strategy, capability of the business. If the company don't have this type of so-called adoption on the architecture concept, they will not go anywhere, because the world is moving very, very fast. So how fast can you respond? That is the question that we need to ask. With the EA, you can respond it quite quickly, because you know exactly that I need to change my entire product offering, and the digital map will tell you, like the GPS, right? It tell you, okay, these are 20 processes impacted, these are 3 departments impacted, these are the IT system that need to change, and you quickly make a decision within a day. What are you going to do? Without EA, you still can make a decision that may take weeks or months, depending on how big is your enterprise. Moving forward, the complexities and the digital complexity is exponential, and there must be some way to manage this, and you cannot do it the way we used to do it in the past. The benefit is that networking, I think, is very, very important. We believe that we can learn. I don't think we claim that we know everything. That's why we need to get the input from the industry, and they can do some validation, like check and balance.